Welcome in. This is called Lunch with Legends. I'm Barry McKnight here in Troy, Alabama, and we're visiting with guys with a lot in common. All Troy Sports Hall of Famers, all Super Bowl champions, and all very visible and very active even now during the coronavirus. Alphabetically, Lawrence Tynes, OC Umenyiora, DeMarcus Ware. How you doing, fellas?
Good, Barry. I'm doing good.
Really good. Really, really good. I see it.
We're excellent. Barry, I am in love with your voice, Barry.
It's unbelievable.
What is that?
It is.
That is incredible.
Well, I my first year doing Troy play-by-play, doing the radio play-by-play, I had done television for a couple of years when Lawrence was a junior and a senior. My first year was 2002, and OC, that was your senior year.
Yep.
DeMarcus,
exactly.
You were a sophomore that year, right?
I was still a young buck.
Yeah, I'm interested in this. Let's start it this way. A Troy fan the other day mentioned something. Well, Lawrence had tweeted something, and OC had liked the tweet, and a Troy fan mentioned, you know what great Trojans those were. And DeMarcus, you chimed in and you said something about how OC had been a mentor of yours for a long time, even back in high school. Besides being a really remarkably kind thing to say, that's backed up by fact. I mean, you and OC go back. You both of you were kind of late bloomers in football. You were both at Auburn High School, and he and you guys had a history together, even from way back then.
Yeah, it was something where when OC moved from Atlanta and to Auburn, like right down the street from the house, and me and him became like brothers instantly, right? And OC at the time, he was about 280, phenomenal soccer player. And then I'm talking about coming from London. It was just crazy just to see how big he was playing soccer. And then he started playing football. We started getting into that, and playing basketball together, like right down the street. And from that point on, like OC went to Troy, and he actually vouched for me to get down there at Troy. He was like, my boy DeMarcus, he's going to be a great player. And it was Davin Williams, it was Brandon Hall, Jonathan Tomlin, and then there was OC, all vouching for me to get down there at Troy. And Troy was the only scholarship offered to me. And so it was like OC opened up that gate for me. And it was like, once we got down there to Troy, OC was like, you know what, I got you. I'm going to make sure that we stayed in this old Deal Hall. He was actually somewhere else in a nice cool spot. I was in Deal Hall with all the roaches and everything, taking my food off of the table. And Lawrence Tynes, you know about Deal Hall, right? So it was a pretty cool story. And, he gets drafted, and I'm still back. And I just remember OC coming back to Troy, and he was like, DeMarcus, I know that you can do something for yourself. And it was like 12 o'clock at night when he drove up. And you know how OC do it. He drove up in a Mercedes-Benz S600 V12.
Ain't hard money.
And with the seat laid all the way back, all right? But that was one of those things that propelled my career. And that friendship has been that way, even with Lawrence as well. And them two playing up there with the Giants. So it's been amazing, man. And we still have that fraternity right now.
OC? Do you remember those days? Did you see what DeMarcus was going to become? Did you see what you were going to be? Did you, I'm going to ask Lawrence about this because he saw it all from the beginning down at Troy. Could you see that?
Well, in regards to Lawrence, I definitely saw, because Lawrence was, I'm gonna get to Lawrence in a bit, man. There's a couple of stories about Lawrence a lot of people don't really understand, And when I tell you these stories about Lawrence, then you'll understand the type of person that he really is, man. Cold-blooded. But DeMarcus was really, really weird, man, because, when I left London, I went from London to Nigeria, and then from Nigeria, I came to Atlanta, then Alabama, where I met DeMarcus. And DeMarcus, they used to call him Boot. We used to call DeMarcus Boot back then. I just figured out maybe about a year ago why they called him Boot, but I'm gonna let him tell that story. But oddly enough, for some odd reason, like me and DeMarcus just became friends. Like we weren't playing football at the time. DeMarcus was a little younger than me, and we rode the same bus because we lived in the same area. So, you know, for some odd reason, I sat right next to DeMarcus on the bus. None of us were playing ball at this time, and you know, we just became friends. And there was a girl. I'm not gonna call her name.
Oh, here we go.
There was a girl. And me and DeMarcus would sit on the bus and we would discuss this girl the whole time to and from school. And so, you know, he's just, the way you see him now, he's been that exact same way since then. Just a good person, man. Really kind, really nice. And so, you know, when I started playing football, you know, my whole story, just even to get to Troy, was ridiculous. A lot of people don't even understand this story. But, you know, nobody gave me a scholarship coming out of school. I had graduated a little early, and the only class I had left was driver's ed. And
you were 16 years old.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so all I had was driver's ed. And so, you know, I was showing up a little tardy to take my driver's ed. So I got put in school suspension. And so this was after my senior year of football. Mm-hmm. And no scholarships. Troy hadn't heard of me. Nobody had heard of me. I was in school suspension. And the guy who was running in-school suspension was a guy by the name of James Joseph. He was a former running back at Auburn.
Bo Peep.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And so James had asked me, he was like, what are you going to do with your life? I was like, man, I don't know. I'm just going to school, because I came to America specifically to go to school. Mm-hmm. So I was going to probably go to Auburn University and, you know, finish my career, my college education over there. So he was like, OC, you know, I think you're a pretty good player, man. I think you could maybe walk on somewhere. So I'm going to call somebody for me. I'm going to call one of my friends who's a coach at Troy University. And this was Tracy Rocker. And so he called Tracy Rocker, who was the D-line coach at Auburn University, at Troy University. And for some odd reason, Coach Rocker was in Auburn visiting his parents. So Coach Rocker was now like, okay, James, let me see what the hell you're talking about. And got in his car and came to Auburn, where I was sitting in school suspension with James Joseph. So he now saw me. He put on the tape, you know, saw what I was doing. He was like, okay, can you run? I was like, yeah, I can run. I was pretty fast and big. You know, they saw he took me outside. I ran the 40. I ran like a 4.8 at the time. This was all within like an hour. And then he called Larry Blakeney. And so he called Larry Blakeney right there and was like, listen, we got this big kid from Auburn. He's big. He's fast. His coach says he can play. I've seen his tape. He doesn't really know what he's doing, but he can run. And, you know, let's see what's going on. So Coach Blakeney was like, all right, give it a shot. So they gave me a scholarship. And this all happened within maybe 2 hours of James Joseph asking me what I was going to do with my life while I was sitting in school suspension. So that's how I got to Troy. So when I now got to Troy and, you know, started playing and started developing and all this stuff, I now got a call. They called me to the office. And this was about DeMarcus. And they were like, do you know DeMarcus? I was like, yeah, I know DeMarcus. He's an incredible player. He's going to be so great. He's going to be awesome. Meanwhile, to tell the truth, I didn't really know any of these things, but I knew DeMarcus was my boy. This was like my brother. And so I needed to vouch for him and, you know, give him a shot. And so, you know, that's how that's how they got in touch with DeMarcus and, you know, finally got, you know, DeMarcus to Troy. This was maybe 3 years in. I don't even remember. But in regards to Lawrence, I'm gonna tell you something about LT.
Oh boy!
Everybody settle in. Everybody settle in. Here we go.
Let me tell you something about LT.
It's popcorn.
So, when we used to like take like 10, 11-hour bus rides.
Oh,
you remember that, LT? We used to take
App State was like 14 hours.
Oh my goodness, didn't we drive to like McKnight or Sam Houston?
McNeese, Northwestern.
McNeese,
oh my gosh.
Ridiculous. And so on the back of the bus, right? On the back of the bus, this is where all the defensive players would be, all the tough guys, you know, the Al Lucases, the Tim Betts, the Fields, all the real tough guys would be sitting on the back of the bus. And there was another guy who was sitting back there on the back of the bus, comfortably, just back there chilling. Lawrence Tynes. And I'll never forget this. And I'll be looking down like,
those are my guys.
said LT doing back, and he was so confident, so calm, so cool, and he was a kicker. But he was just the best, man. The personality, you saw him make those kicks in Green Bay or the Super Bowl. I was never even concerned about Lawrence because I knew what type of person it takes to sit back there amongst all that madness and be comfortable.
Hey, we had so much fun, though.
You have to be to sit back there and be comfortable amongst all that madness, and he was the only one. And so I knew I had a bunch of confidence in LT, man. LT's been the man ever since then.
Hey, let me stop you real quick on that story. Do you remember when you remember after the game we used to get like Popeyes or something, chicken box, and somebody on the front of the bus pissed Tim Betts off, and he grabbed them mashed potatoes and threw it all the way to the front of the bus. And I'm like, those are the things I remember from being at Troy. It was unbelievable. But the funny story is, if you think about all three of us, DeMarcus, that was your only scholarship offer. OC, you were on a lifeline. Got to pick up by Rocker. I was a walk-on.
Right.
And so, we weren't. That's what I tell these kids all the time, that we see these 4- and 5-star guys. It doesn't matter. Everyone's got a different route to get to where they're going. But I really didn't start kicking until my junior year of high school, and my PE teacher was our defensive coordinator, and he took me out. He said, "Hey, we need a kicker. You want to come out to the field and try and kick?" And I literally didn't stop from that point on. And I'll be honest with you, I never would have tried it. I just didn't. I was a small kid. I ended up growing, but I was 5'3" in 9th grade. And then by my junior year, I was 6'1", like 150. I looked like a Pez dispenser because I had this big old head and a real skinny body. So football was not in the cards for me. But then I ended up playing safety. And you remember Chris Archie, Ose?
Yeah.
So me and Archie were safeties, and Archie ended up – I actually started in front of him, and we signed him. So I could ball a little bit. Anyway, but then my walk-on, that was my only option. I had no other schools really talking to me because no one really knew about me. And so –
well, LT, confirm this story, because I had heard that your father was a former Navy SEAL, military background. He and Coach Blakeney talked. This is the story. Coach Blakeney talked with him and told your dad that, look, we'll let him walk on. If he's good enough, we'll give him a scholarship. But that Dr. Hawkins, the chancellor, Dr. Jack Hawkins, a Marine himself, he had a great deal of respect for the fact that your dad was a Navy SEAL, and he kind of helped facilitate that as well. Does that ring a bell at all? Does that ring true?
It does. Yeah, because Dr. Hawkins and I still keep in touch, and we email. Sure. But he brings it up. Obviously, Dr. Hawkins is very fond of the military and what it meant to his life, and so he brings it up from time to time. And my dad vetted me just because obviously I was his son, but I just knew no one was going to outwork me. And it was a challenge. I redshirted, me and Matt Allen, we both played in the league together. So it was kind of, we were both have two walk-on kickers make it to the NFL from the same class was probably unheard of.
This is great stuff. DeMarcus, I saw you last week doing some draft coverage with the Dallas Cowboys. Catch us up. Are you involved in that? I know I've seen your work, of course, with the NFL Network, and I'm going to get to OC and all of his work over there. Is that kind of where the coaching aspect of it? Is that kind of where you feel your impact kind of lies in the future?
The thing is, I've really been working on, I worked a little bit with the NFL Network. I was a pass rush consultant for the Denver Broncos, and sporadically, every once in a while, I get to work the draft with Jamie Foxx. It was a totally virtual draft, which was really, really fun.
Yeah.
Great opportunity, to get back in football and to talk a little bit. But a lot of people don't know that I love computer science. And what I've been really doing is building some software for the last 2 years that I was going to launch right before COVID-19. And it uses all kinds of, stuff that, I can't say exactly who I'm working with, but it's going to be a great project when I launch it. And it's a big fitness project. And I've been really big in fitness because I feel like, from what we did in football, how to lead, how to motivate people, and being a captain for 12 years for both of those teams, now I'm trying to lead people not just the fans in the stadium, but the people outside of the stadium through fitness and live like healthy lives. Like, I feel like that's my calling. So just been really getting into that and going back into what I love and enjoy. And that's computer stuff. I know OC saw a little bit of it, and OC was like, "What? Did you actually develop that?" And yes, I mean, from square one, programming it all the way to the final product, and working with the biggest app company here, which is with Bottle Rocket in Dallas, and we built some great software and been doing that and opening up some gyms later on this year. So hopefully that goes well. But that's what I've been doing.
Awesome.
That is interesting. OC, seen your work, working with the BBC. You've done some games, some coverage, all that kind of stuff. Actually, right now, I didn't think we established it, but you are in London right now, and your career in media has really blossomed, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I think it's been pretty good so far, and I've been lucky in that respect. I think when I retired from the NFL, within like a week, I had left America and I was in London like a week after.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing was, I started setting that up maybe 7 years before, because we came to London. LT, you remember when we came to London?
Yeah, 07.
Yeah, we played a game, exactly. We played a game in London, 07. And I met the guy who was running the NFL International at the time. His name was Mark Waller. And for some reason, I just told him, I was like, listen, when I retire, and I was only 4 years in the league at that time, but I was like, listen, when I retire, I'm going to come out to London and do some work out there. He was like, all right, no problem, cool. So the whole time I was playing, I kept in touch with him, because the one thing that I didn't really want to do was what I saw everybody else doing. Like, I just didn't see myself, retiring and then going on ESPN or, just doing that. So I wanted to do something different and something that would allow me to actually truly help and reach people. And so when I retired, he was the first phone call I made. I was like, listen, I'm retired, man, what's up? And he was like, are you ready to go? I was like, yeah, I'm ready. And so I discussed with my wife, and then within a week, I was in London working at the NFL offices. And so I had to go into the office every day and, just continue to work and continue to learn the business of the NFL. And then eventually they decided that they were going to do a TV show and put it on the BBC. And so because of, where I came from and my knowledge and the fact that I was actually born in London, they were like, okay, you're going to be the perfect front man for doing this out here. And so I embraced it. And I just went out there, started doing TV, doing the TV shows, and the people out here, just for some reason, they really took to it. And we were able to win awards and all kinds of stuff out here for our coverage. And so I've just been lucky, man, that, I was able to do something. Because a lot of people, when they retire, it's tough. You don't really know what you're going to do. Your whole life has been football for so long, and you're not really exactly sure how you're going to transition to the next phase of your life. But luckily, I was able to do that. And I'm here in London. I'm pretty sure I'm not coming back to America, especially not right now. So I'm going to be in London for the time being.
What's it like out there in London with all the pandemic and that?
Yeah, it's rough. It's rough. A lot of people have died. But the workers, the key workers, the staff, the NHS, the Free Public Health Service, these guys are fantastic. And so they're doing the best that they can. And the government is actually doing a pretty good job of trying to, contain and, isolate and do different things of that nature. So, we're trying to come through it just like you guys are in America. But, it's a long road ahead. It's going to be tough, but I think eventually we're going to be fine.
That's good to hear. Yeah. Let me pose a question to DeMarcus and to Lawrence about OC. And I did some research. He didn't exactly toot his horn quite a bit, but OC, with the BBC, he won the Royal Television Society Performance Award for Best Sports Presenter, Commentator, or Pundit twice, in 2017 and this past year, and the 2018 Sports Journalist Award, British Sports Pundit of the Year as well. A lot of national awards for his work in London. When you're riding on those buses to McKnight State, did you ever think OC would ever be doing this at any point in his life?
Man,
both of you guys.
I'm not sure. He was always an intelligent guy. You could tell he's intelligent. Obviously, he came here to go to school, and education was important to him and his family. And same with DeMarcus. I think that's the story of all of us. I mean, from the day I got into the NFL, I was planning on what am I going to do next?
Right.
And because it can be over in a split second. And, you just got to prepare and meet people. I tell these young guys, meet the guys, shake the hands, get the business card, because at some point you're going to lean on these people that you meet. And, you know, for me, I'll just give you my story after football. Is I've been with Wheels Up. It's a private jet company for 6.5 years, and I'm a senior vice president at Wheels Up. And so, I mean, I graduated quickly. I didn't know anything about airplanes, but obviously I've grown in my role and just with leadership and, you know, team building. It's a team. I got a new locker room now. We got 1,400 employees, and it's a lot of work, but it's a lot of fun. And it's just a little bit different, right? We don't have to go perform on Sunday, but it's still a locker room. And I think that's the beauty of sports. And I tell my kids that it's going to teach you everything you need to know, because at some point, look at us all right now. We're, you know, DeMarcus is doing his deal. OC is doing TV. I'm working in the real world. Football is a great start to life. That's what I tell people. It's a really good start.
Does that resonate with you, DeMarcus?
Yeah, and the thing is, like, you need to use those platforms that you build from the sports that, you know, you play. It doesn't matter what sport it is, but a lot of people, they lean a lot on just sports in general. But no matter what, we go back to that Troy education that we got. The Sorrell College of Business, right? And that's what a lot of people, and I don't know if Lawrence was in that as well, but at the end of the day.
I was not in the business school.
But you was in somewhere that was very, very important at Troy,
Yes.
right? And I think that we all lean back to what the steak and potatoes are. And that's the education. That's what you learn throughout your whole career. And then after that, there's always like a rebirth, which all of us have had and been very successful at what we've done. So it's just pretty cool to see how the rainbow starts in one thing and then it goes up high and then it comes down, right? And it's just, you know, all those awesome things to see what we're doing and how everybody's bossing.
I want to ask you one more thing about that as we're talking about this. I remember Coach Blakeney, you know, when he was talking, when each of you were inducted into the Troy Sports Hall of Fame, he talked about Lawrence and what OC had mentioned about Lawrence's mental toughness and, you know, his discipline to, you know, when the game's on the line. And I remember one time he was in an interview where somebody asked him about what the program meant to have such great athletes like OC Umenyiora and DeMarcus Ware. And I'll never forget, he said, let me stop you there. He said, those guys were great athletes. He said, we're blessed to have them in the program. Their athleticism, you know, was a great part of what they were. He said, but nobody ever talks about how they worked their butts off when they were there. First one on the practice field, you know, in the film room, last one off, all that kind of stuff. He said, the athleticism is great. He says, but it's the worth ethic nobody ever seems to give credit to. Thoughts on that, OC?
Yeah, well, I would say in regards to like athleticism, I think I was a decent athlete. I was nowhere on the level of a DeMarcus Ware. DeMarcus was a freak athlete. He's a different kind of athlete, and Lawrence is a very good athlete also. But I think it's the combination of work and having that athleticism that propels you to being the player that you are. Like, for instance, I can, you know, without any shred of a doubt, say that DeMarcus Ware is one of the greatest players the NFL has ever seen. That's not even up for debate. And the reason why was because not only was he an incredible athlete, but the way he worked and his understanding. When you combine those two things, that's when you get a Hall of Fame type of player. Now, me, I was a pretty good athlete, but I worked really, really hard. And so therefore you get a good player. You understand? So the difference between myself and the DeMarcus, and I'm so sad to be saying this in front of him right now, was his athleticism. You know, I would say we had the same work ethic, but his athleticism was so much higher than mine that he was able to do things that I just simply couldn't do. So that's when you get 100 and something sacks to 90 sacks. You understand?
I understand.
And then LT, obviously a very, very good athlete, a tremendous football player, real confidence. You add all that in, you get the type of player that LT was, a Super Bowl winner. Like, if it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have any rings. And that's
that's not true, but I appreciate you saying that.
Of course, I mean,
you guys harassed Tom Brady both times. Both games, y'all were harassing him.
Yeah, but how do we get to those games?
That's right. Yeah. True.
How do we get there? And so you got to put all those things, huh?
I said I will humbly accept that. Appreciate it.
Of course. I don't think anybody could truly understand what it was like in Green Bay. Like,
Man,
unless you were there.
And then, let me tell you about this dude. He had no undershirt on. OC wore shoulder pads and a jersey. It was minus 28.
Yeah.
This was
That's
in 08. 08, the
Really?
NFC Championship game, and of course it happened again in at the end of the 2011 season in 2012. To this date, fellas, Lawrence Tynes remains the only person living to kick 2 overtime game-winning field goals in the playoffs. I know you're humble,
crazy.
Lawrence, but man,
Crazy.
No, I'm proud of it. I mean, as these guys could tell you, the further you get away from the game, you start to appreciate what you did. Because when you're doing it, and I'm sure DeMarcus could tell you this, and OC, they were Pro Bowlers. I was never a Pro Bowler, but like you start appreciating. You're like, man, I did that, and then you just kind of think about it for a second, and then obviously you're proud to play in the league. But I brag about these two guys all the time.
Mhm.
Every time they're like, "Where'd you go to school?" I said, "I went to Troy." OC Umenyiora, DeMarcus Ware. And then I tell them the story how they went to the same high school, and people are like, no, they just can't believe it. Like this, how did Auburn let you two out of their backyard? And then you guys end up becoming 2 of the best pass rushers we've seen in the last 20 years in the NFL. It's just a really, really neat story, I think, and I love telling it. So
it is a great story. DeMarcus.
Barry, San Francisco, man. San Francisco, a bloodbath.
Yeah, that was in 2012.
Yeah.
Both times to
God.
get to the Super Bowl. Everybody talks about the Green Bay game because of the conditions, Lawrence.
Mm-hmm.
Any comparison between the difficulty of those kicks?
So there was a delay of game on that. And then people, if they watched the film, so when we went out there, we lined up, somebody was late getting on, and it was a short kick. It was like 26. And then I actually had to line up in a puddle. And I couldn't move it too far right or left. So I said, let's just try and figure this out and kick it out of the mud. It wasn't very long. And then we get a delay of game. But on the film, we got to see, I don't think people at home saw it, Chris Snee got beat. You remember Chris Snee, DeMarcus? He got beat. And if we get that kickoff, it was going to get blocked. So there's all kinds of little things that happen. That's kind of an inside story. I haven't told a lot, but on that film, because Chris Snee is a Hall of Fame player, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but he got hurdled by somebody, and had we got that kickoff, it would have been blocked. So then we get the delay, nice patch of grass. We end up, great snap. We make the kick, and the rest is history. And the first person I got to hug was Jarrell Jernigan. I'll never forget that.
Another
Troy guy.
Hall of Fame.
So we had a lot of bragging rights in that locker room. I mean, it was me, OC, and Jarrell. I mean, LSU, Florida, you name it. We had the most people from any one school, I think, right?
Yeah.
Pretty much had it. And then DeMarcus, I don't know if you ended up playing with any Troy guys. I know Chun's there now. Is he, or is he still there?
Yeah, Chun's there now, but I never got to play with any other Troy guys. But it was so crazy. Every single time it was that Giant game. I know that it was Lawrence Tynes. I know there was Umenyiora. And I'm like,
it was fun though. It was a proud moment for me because I got to see there's one of the best players in the league from Troy. So there's a pride factor in that. Seeing guys from your school, whether it's McClendon, or Mario Addison up in Carolina now. I mean, I still watch all those guys, and it's fun to watch.
The thing is, I really hated seeing you guys, especially when you came down to Dallas, and then you was kicking those field goals. OC was sacking, every single quarterback that we had, and then y'all go win the Super Bowl, right? I think it was 13-0 season. Oh no, actually it was something crazy like 13-3 season that we had. Then y'all go win the Super Bowl. That was that Green Bay year, and then all of a sudden, guess what? Y'all came back down again and kicked our butts again, and go up to the Patriots and win another Super Bowl. And I'm like, dude, I'm so tired of seeing the Giants. I wasn't never tired of seeing OC and Lawrence Tynes. I was tired of seeing the Giants, okay? And OC talks about that all the time. Every once in a while, he'll show his rings like this, right? And I'm like, okay, well, at least I know
you got
one now, and I can still talk about trash.
Man,
Who was your most hated team in the East, though? Was it us? Or was it mine was Philly because they used to kick our.
The most hated team in the, it was Philly. It was
Philly, because Philly just beat us all the time. That's why
they were throwing batteries with the snow with batteries in there, hitting inside of the helmet. You know, you had McNabb, and then right after that, you got Michael Vick, and you're chasing them dudes, and they talk so much trash in those games. And I'm going against, you know, OC Jason Peters. He's a monster.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Huge.
Bring your lunchbox.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, well, I got to tell you guys this story though, man. And DeMarcus is going to remember this. And this came after 2007. It was after the 2007 season. We had just won the Super Bowl, and I got voted into the Pro Bowl that year.
Yeah.
And DeMarcus was there also the same year. And I got to be honest with you. Outside of the Super Bowls that I won, that was special. That was like my proudest moment that I've ever experienced in the NFL, because like just being out there, right? And I'm looking at DeMarcus, and he's looking at me, and I'm like, we were riding the bus together, man.
Talking about that girl.
I'm talking about that girl. We weren't even playing ball at this time.
No,
and I'm
amazing.
looking at him, I'm like, yo, we are literally among the best players in the world. NFL. And it was surreal to see him out there in Hawaii, man. It was crazy.
Hey, you two need a 30 for 30, y'all too.
Yeah.
I really do, because I don't think people know the story. Like it's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Same town, same high school, same college.
Late start in football, the whole deal. Well,
we were out there on the Pro Bowl field in the game, and I got an opportunity because I played linebacker. So Pro Bowl, we play 4-3. So OC's on the defensive line, and I'm actually behind playing a 4-3 linebacker. And so they said, do you want to get an opportunity to rush? And so I ran to the sideline on the next series, and then OC was like, they're going to let you rush? I said, dude, do you understand that we are on the same field together? We are the best at our positions, at 2 different positions in the NFL. And now we get to go rush the passer together. And so usually at the Pro Bowl, we take it easy, right? We take it easy, we chill, we relax. And I told OC, this is what we need to do. Let's go sack the
Let's go get him.
I told everybody, we were like, we don't care about it. Let's do it one more time just for keep's sake. And let's get that video, man. And so OC came around the corner. The offensive tackles didn't know what hit him. We hit the quarterback, knocked the ball out. I was like, dude, this is great.
The trifecta.
It was cool, really cool.
These stories, the whole experience has been surreal. Thank you so much for the time, fellas. We're awfully proud of you and what you do, not only to represent yourselves in Troy University, but the game of football. Thanks so much for the time. Let's not be strangers. We hope to keep in touch with you soon, fellas. Thanks.
Barry, I enjoyed it. Thank you, Barry.